Hey now, I'm up at the hunting shack, and as it turns out, my thoughts inevitably turn to pallets and building stuff because, well, that's what I like to do out here. Now, I managed to score a stack of free pallets here earlier today, just like so. So, trying to figure out what I want to do with them. Now, I did build some pallet kind of benches, couches, chairs, I don't know what I want to call them for sure, last year, and I figure I'd like to build one more just to kind of complete the circle around the fire pit. So that's what I'm going to do today. So as far as pallets go, you need 3 of them. One of them which should have, you know, a pretty decent little, at least one half of it, because this is going to operate as the back for the chair. And then you need 2 that are going to function as the actual seat. This is going to be stacked free high, but you need 2 pallets, just need 2 pallets in order to do that. And for tools and other materials, I'm going to use this little crowbar here. I've got a nail remover, which I might need for some of them. I've got 2 different lengths of screws that I might possibly use, so I've got some 2.5s, 3s would also definitely do the job, and then some 1 3/4 and 1.5 would also work. This is just what I had on hand. Going to use a cordless drill, of course, a measuring tape is nice and handy, and then a hammer and a skill saw. So really all that the tape measure was for was just to make sure that these 3 pallets that I'm going to be using are all the same length, just so that everything will line up on the sides. Now, what you want to do is, of course, make sure that you've got one that you're going to be happy with for the back. So I am going to use this one here. It does have, you know, it is a little bit broken off there, but that actually adds just a little bit of character. And I think this top side here is going to be the top side of the back, especially since we run a little bit skinny down there near the end. So this is still going to be part of the chair, but you're not actually going to be able to see it. Then, thinking about the seat, you want to find what is kind of the nicest end here to actually operate as the seat. So I'm going to use this pallet here, and it's nicer to have like the smallest amount of gaps possible. So if you can get one of these pallets, one that's not like that one there that has some really big spaces in it, but something like this, it's going to offer a little bit more support. I am going to be using cushions on these, but just the more wood you have going across here, the more support there's going to be. So this side here, this far side here, is going to be the top layer of my bench. Well, you might be able to hear the chainsaw going off in the background there, felling some trees today. Now, since this half here is going to be the top part of the bench, I want to cut along this side of that 2x4 just so I've got this nice strong piece. Now, just like with my pallet bicycle rack, the trick to doing that is doing your best just to line up here, and really we're going to just try to run the saw blade along this 2x4. So it is some eyeballing and a little bit of luck, but it's not that hard. All right, and once you've got this cut here, we just have to flip this over, and we're going to cut along the same side right here. Quite a bit simpler because it's only 5 little boards in this case. So once you have all that done, you want to take whatever side's going to be your back, which in this case is this, and if it's not nicely flush, you want to trim any of those off. Now I've got, looks like maybe 3, I just want to trim flat along there. So, just taking the saw again, lifting up that guard, getting it up nice and tight, and then going. Just like that. So have to be real careful. There we go. So that top piece is now done. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this second piece just like I did that one, and then we will see how we'll treat the other half of that. So this piece here, which is going to be the bottom base, cut really nicely. There was actually zero trimming required afterwards, so that's excellent. Now, since I want that to be 3 high, my trick here is I need a way to support this, and this half here turned out a little bit nicer than this half, because that one had one of those things that popped off. So now I'm just going to go ahead and just using my hammer, essentially, just going to knock these all off like that. Now, if I do wind up here with nails, and I'm just going to use my nail puller just to take those out, and I'm just harvesting this little 2x4 here, which is going to be inserted into that as the brace. Alternatively, if you wanted to use this for anything, you could just take another little chunk of 2x4 that you might have around the house and insert it in there instead, but I'm going to use up this pallet. Alright, so actually these are all high enough. I can just go ahead and use a hammer just to remove these. Now, of course, because I'm also doing this in what is essentially a driveway, I'm going to make sure to not misplace any of those nails. Alright, so now that I've got this piece of wood free, I'm going to go ahead and put it into here. Toss that over there. And just get it in between the top and the bottom slats. Easier said than done with one pair of hands. There we go. Just like that, and then you can just line it up as good as possible. And then I guess this is where one item I didn't mention earlier that a person would possibly want would be just some extra nails. So, well, actually looking at these nails, yeah, I'm not really happy with any of them, so I'm going to go get some better nails and hammer them in. So we are on to drilling time here. I'm actually assembling the base. So this is what's going to function as the base, and this side here is going to be the front. So now it's time for a little more strategy, exactly how I'm putting it together, just so that the nicest end is always at the front here. And you can see I wound up having a little bit of a mishap with this board here, but I'm not super worried about that because it's not going to mess up the structural integrity of this at all. I'm just going to make sure that the front and the sides are nice and flush, and this back side here is 1.5 inches in, but that's not a big deal. These 3 parts of the base are going to be assembled together, and then the bottom one and the top one are going to screw through into the back. So this is really just to help support downward pressure. So that's all good. Now I'm going to use my screws here. I think I'll probably just, what do we have? So for some of these, I can actually get through the bottom board of this and the top board of the other one. So I'm going to use some of the shorter screws here just to secure. We'll do one on each side here. Now it doesn't matter that these screws are a little bit longer than those two boards, and so it will be sticking through because it's not going to be anywhere where anybody's hands can ever get. So it won't cause a problem. Throw a few more in here. Let's see, do any more line up? Yeah, right in the middle. So here, of course, as always, I'm probably going to put in way more screws than I actually need, but I'd rather have that than not enough. Now the exact same thing with the top one. Once again, line up the front and the sides as much as possible. That can be secured. And there we go. So you can see it's nice, sturdy. Definitely no way it can come apart. Now I'm going to move this to a little bit closer to where I actually plan on having it positioned, just so that once this other pallet's on here and I'm carrying around what is essentially 2.5 pallets, that I'm not going to wreck my back. All right, so I brought this pallet out here and I just lined it up so that it's matching up with the sides on the bottom of this here. And now just using my longer screws, so these ones are 2.5 inches. I'm just going to go ahead and screw in along several of these top and bottom pieces here, the top and bottom pallets. And that will create a nice, sturdy chair. My dialogue improves as I try to multitask. And there we go. And nice and sturdy. So let's check this out. So as you can see, nice, sturdy, sit on it. So at this point you can just use it as a chair or a bench like this. However, we have a little different thing that we do with it. But as you can see, it matches the design of the other chairs that we have around the fire pit here. Sweet fire pit that needs to be cleaned out. Now, a person could absolutely go ahead and, if you wanted to stain these or paint them or whatever, we're going with this natural look and then some cushions. So you can see here these cushions that my mother-in-law made, just with some nice high density foam and some fabric that she had, adds a super cool little splash of color to this and definitely adds to the comfort. Well, there you have it. With a few pallets, maybe an hour of your time, and some tools, it's pretty simple to make a nice, durable chair that's certainly not going to blow away in the wind, and has lots of different options for actually finishing it up, whether you want to stain it, paint it, get some nice cushions for it. Either way, really nice to have around the fire or out in the backyard. So yeah, till next time, keep it 11.